there are people out there that are doing this full time, like making not even just like scraping by as like a starving artist, but people that are like living very comfortably as like instrumental ambient musicians. And that just like blew my mind that was even a thing. You put in all that work and it might not pay off in the way that you hoped it would. I think that's a reality of kind of the, especially in the instrumental world where you're like, a lot of us aren't like doing tours and stuff. You kind of have to rely on some of these other channels to kind of like build your ecosystem of support.
Welcome to the place on the internet where instrumental guitar artists meet and nerd out about their life, their art, their craft. Just chill and hang out and have a good time, basically. Today I had the honor to do just that, nerding out with Brian / From Somewhere Quiet. And whoa, we had so many things we talked about. I would say a key word was the importance of delayed gratification. Other than that, we basically talked about everything there is in terms of mindset, opportunities, funnels, moving people from passive into active listeners. The only thing we didn't talk so much about is his creative process because we just had not enough time. So there will be a part 2. You can look forward to that. If you don't want to miss that episode, make sure to follow the podcast. And now have fun with the conversation. Welcome to the podcast, Brian, or should I say From Somewhere Quiet? How would you like me to address you?
You can call me Brian. It's still weird to me to have like an artist name, especially like outside of my music life. When people are like, oh, what's your thing on Spotify? I want to look it up. I'm always like, oh, it makes me just like so cringy. But yeah, you can call me Brian.
Okay, great. I mean, you're at a solid size. Has that ever happened to you that someone told you, oh, are you from somewhere quiet? Has someone called you that?
That's a good question. Not in that direction, but like, I think we had chatted offline, but like I work like a regular 9-to-5 job. And so like there's people that I work with, like there's some people that are aware that I'm like do music or that I'm a musician, but like I would say the vast majority of people in my personal life have no idea that this is a thing, or at least the extent to which like, I do music kind of on the side. But there are some people who have like, like when they've heard, they're like, oh, like tell me about it. Like especially once they hear about Spotify, they're like, you have stuff on Spotify. How can I find you? Yeah. And then I have to kind of like go through the spiel, like, oh, it's not really under my name. It's under this like pseudonym. And then it kind of like, and so that has happened periodically, but not super often. It's still very like, I wouldn't say secretive, but not like kind of like publicly broadcast in my personal life that I kind of have this like, second life as an ambient musician.
So on that note, how does it feel? We just chatted about it. How does it feel to be? You just told me it's probably the first time you're actively speaking to a camera. How does it feel for you now to be on a podcast?
Well, you and I chatted before this, like I was super, I wouldn't say skeptical, but just like nervous, like being like, oh, I don't know if this is for me. I'm kind of like, would rather keep to myself type thing. But then as soon as you and I chatted, and then as soon as I watched the first episode, I was like, oh my God, this is going to be so fun. Like, it's just like, I think I said like, oh, these are my people. Like, I feel like, definitely like, especially I don't interact a ton with other musicians outside of just like, the occasional Instagram messaging, that kind of stuff. So it's super fun to kind of like find this little niche of, kind of ambient guitar nerds that we can all kind of nerd out about stuff. So it's super fun.
Exactly. That's why we're here. That's exactly the point.
And I saw I was able to, like, just before this, I was able to get into the school page, and I got a quick skim through some of the questions and stuff. And I was just like blown away. I was like, holy, like everyone's like so thoughtful and like super detailed questions and like all this stuff. I was like, oh my God, it was a very like surreal feeling to have, like, to kind of read like that, like people were like, oh, I would love to know this. And I was like, what? Just kind of that like imposter syndrome of like, oh, why would anyone want to know what I'm doing type thing. So I'm excited to get to share that for people to kind of like, hear about. I'm sure we'll touch on a lot of the questions that people are asking about. So it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a lot of questions. Let's see if we can manage to get through all of them. But yeah, welcome to the stage. I know it's a little different because we make as instrumental artists, it's not so common. You are really in front of the camera, and
Right.
so for me it was from my side when we texted, and I tried to get you to maybe consider being on the podcast. You did like the biggest cliffhanger I had yet in my life, because it was like, yeah, I don't know, and then a little bit of silence, and then I maybe will look into it, and I was like, oh please, and then you wrote like, oh my God, you guys are my people. And I was like, I almost started crying, I was like, oh my God, that's why, because we just are all in our little caves. It feels like this is also why I started the community in the first place. And then the podcast came through the community basically, right?
Totally. Yeah. And I think the timing like couldn't have been more perfect, because I think like we had talked about this as well. We're like, if this had come up even like a year or two ago, I probably wouldn't be at the point where I'm like comfortable, kind of like having these conversations and that kind of stuff. But like, I'm at the point in my own musical journey where like, I'm really looking forward to the more like, personal kind of engagement aspect of like being a musician like this, and the kind of the intersection between what you're doing with the guitarwavers community and then what some of the stuff I'm trying to do with just like, not thinking too much about streams and algorithms and playlists, and more just trying to find my little niche of people who, like we said, even if it's like 5 people willing to like join a live stream on like a Sunday night or something like that, and just like watch me embarrass myself, like tinkering with guitar pedals or like, go through, open a Pro Tools session or, that kind of stuff. I think that's where like long term where I want this project to go. And obviously I would love to preserve the streams and all the good stuff that like, helps people discover this music. But I think, the end goal for me, I think at this point is a lot more of that like, community and just kind of finding that niche of people who are into it. So.
And that kind of changed, right, for you? Like you did this Instagram post where you said you started it just because you made it and you were like, why not share it, right? Not expecting much. And then what happened? Yeah,
so I think it had like, I definitely had like a lot of, I wouldn't say ups and downs, but just like different frames of mind throughout the whole, I would say like releasing musical journey, because I've been like playing music since I was like probably a teenager. I think I started playing guitar when I was like 13 or so. Yeah. But I didn't actually put out any music until I think like the very end of 2018. And I actually started in like, and that wasn't this project. That was a different like moniker that I was releasing music under. And it was kind of more in the post-rock kind of realm. And so I started with that, and I kind of fell into this because I was really into like kind of the like explosions in the sky and kind of a lot of that type of music. And I started putting out like, I did like I think it was like a 6-song EP or something in like December of 2018. And it was really cool, but it was also like, it wasn't really post-rock music. It was more of the kind of like softer ambient side of post-rock. And I kind of fell into this niche of like, okay, it wasn't post-rocky enough for the post-rock crowd, and it wasn't ambient enough for the ambient crowd. So I kind of like fell into this little like, this gray area. And so then, and that was when like, I would pretty much the only promotion I do is I would send it to like, there's like a Where Post Rock used to be Where Post Rock Dwells. I think there was like a YouTube channel that would take submissions, and that was pretty much the only like promo that I did. I was like, oh, and they shared it. I was like, this is so cool. Yeah. And then, but then I sort of like, kind of transitioned away because I feel like it kind of felt like that wasn't really my niche. Like it wasn't really a good fit for kind of the post-rock kind of realm. So then that's when I kind of transitioned over to just like, oh, well, let me kind of start fresh and kind of cut over to this like more ambient guitar type, just a different like pseudonym moniker type thing. But yeah, I used to, at a certain point, which is especially after hearing Rebecca's interview, like my original goal was like something like Epidemic Sound or whatever. It's just like, I don't want people to know who I am. I just want to like write music that I like to write, put it out there, be like behind the scenes, and like maybe it'll go on these playlists and get picked up by the algorithm. Like that at some point seemed like the goal. Like it kind of like ebbed and flowed between these like different iterations of kind of just like putting stuff out there and like playing the lottery almost, whereas like maybe it'll be cool if it gets picked up by a playlist. So that was kind of like phase one. And I learned, so I would say that was probably the first 2 or 3 years of putting out music. And then the first year of doing From Somewhere Quiet, I would like send my music to playlist curators being like, and I think, Billy Joe might have talked about this in his episode as well, being like, you kind of like would find a playlist that was a good fit for your music. You'd look up who was the owner, and you could like send them an email or Instagram message being like, hey, here's my song. No worries if it's not a good fit, but like if you're willing to check it out, it'd be awesome. And one of those playlist curators was this guy named Kyle McAvoy, who runs Sonder Records, that at the time was like very like ambient neoclassical focused. And he was the one who was like, I had just sent it for like a playlist being like, hey, your playlist is cool. Like, what do you think? Would you be willing to put this song on your playlist? And he was like, hey, your music's like really good. You should like, would you want to like release music with us? And that was the first, I was like, what does that mean? So I like, ended up having a Zoom call with him, and like, he was the one who was essentially like, I would kind of like pulled the curtain back on the whole, like, hey, you could like do this. Like there are people out there that are doing this full time, like making not even just like scraping by as like a starving artist, but people that are like living very comfortably as like instrumental ambient musicians. And that just like blew my mind that was even a thing.
Thought about that before.
I hadn't even considered that. Yeah. Like I knew that like obviously there were people that were doing music full time, but either we're doing a ton of different things, like doing lessons or gigging and all that stuff, and I had no interest in a lot of that stuff. But the concept of like kind of just being able to do this as like for like a living just was like, what do you mean that's possible? So he was definitely, and we can get into more later, but like that was, I would say, the pivotal point of like going from I'll just kind of passively put stuff out, like I'm really passionate about writing this kind of music, might as well throw it out there, see what happens, to like the being more intentional and strategic and kind of taking it more like seriously about like learning about the algorithms and promotion and marketing and all that stuff. And that was probably in 2021, I think, when that like, so it's been about 5 years of like, kind of like going all in on like, let's see how far we can take this as a project and kind of like a business and see where it goes. And
so did you then start to release everything with Sonder House? Like every song with them, or
pretty much, yeah. And what's cool about what I like about Sonder House is, and Kyle is like, so Sonder House very much still exists, but it's also now a lot of Kyle's focus is now in the he has a couple like really really big kind of like indie folk artist that he like manages and releases and mentors. So like that's where all of his attention is. Okay. So like in the instrumental world, I would say it's almost more just like it started kind of more of just like a distributor type, almost like mentorship type gig rather than like a traditional label. So I was like, I would do my own artwork. I do my own mastering. I would essentially like do all the releases, and Kyle was there for me as just like almost like a consultant, like a mentor. Like they would only take like, I think it was like 10% or something. So like the deal was really good. You get to keep all of your rights. You don't have to like give away any of your ownership. So like that was really compelling for me to be like, okay, I get a little bit, especially because I'm still early on figuring out what I'm doing. I get a little bit of extra guidance and support. But the biggest thing to me has always been like, I don't want to give away any of my ownership. So I've like turned down a lot of opportunities and other types of like traditional labels because you have to give away like 50%, or you give away your publishing and that kind of stuff. And like my vision has always been like, this is like like a retirement like goal for me, where like maybe 30 years from now, like all the passive royalties will be enough for me to just be like, okay, maybe I'll go sail off into the sunset.
It's like investing into stocks in a way, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of how I've been like mentally thinking about it ever since that transition. And Sonder House has been really great for that, because like that's their whole thing. That's like you keep all of your ownership, you know, like they take a very small percentage, and then you're kind of free to do whatever you want, and they're available for any like, you know, kind of consulting strategy. And then the thing that was cool that hasn't helped like a ton, but I think is definitely like, you know, a thing that I feel like I'm doing everything that I can in my control to try to make these successful, is like they're just the distributor we use that's called STEM. They have like an additional pitching tool for DSPs like Apple and Spotify. So you can give a little bit more of a detailed pitch to like the editorial playlists and stuff, which like I've only been on a couple of editorial playlists. But I feel like in terms of like, I'm like, that's the one thing where like, okay, I'm willing to give away a small percentage of like my streaming royalties, you know, one, because Kyle helped me out a ton years ago. Yeah. So I'm like, I pretty much have cut him in a small percent of everything that I will do for the rest of my life, because I'm just like, love the guy. He changed my life with like how he, you know, kind of, you know, opened my eyes to what we could do. And then also, there's like a little bit of an extra, like, you know, potentially cutting through the noise of the, you know, editorial pitches and stuff with some of that stuff. So yeah, that's kind of the Sonder House gig, but I would say I still consider myself like 100% independent, because they're not really like a traditional label per se, and I still own, you know, all my like masters and publishing, and I can pretty much do whatever I want with my music, which I love.
Okay, I still have a question before we get to the maybe the mental shift, if you want to call it.
Yep, totally.
How did Kyle help you reach a wider audience? Like what did he help you with, what you didn't know maybe before, to get more streams, or I don't know. Yeah, I would say the biggest thing that he did for me was just he just like the biggest change was when I heard what some of his artists were like, how much they were making as musicians. And like, so just that there was people that were making equivalent, if not more, sometimes like way more than I was making at my like engineering 9-to-5 day job. Was so like that was probably the biggest thing, was just him being like, you could do this. Like, there are people that are doing this. Like, your music is good. Like, you know, you can definitely get there. It's like, there's no shortcut. So it's like, you know, it's going to take a while. It was kind of that, like, you know, that kind of motivation, and that kind of being like, you know, kind of pulling the curtain back. And as someone who is not like, you know, trained as a musician or whatever, don't have a musical background, like that was, I think, the biggest single thing that he like unlocked for me, was just that like that change in perspective. And then he was always, you know, I would always just be able to like email him, text him, hop on a call being like, hey, what do you think about this? You know, but I think it was a lot more that kind of just like mentorship, I would say, than traditional like, you know, they don't have a giant playlist network. He has some connections with, so he helped me, get like, you know, I've been rejected by more like music licensing libraries and things like that. So it took us a couple tries, but he was able to help me, get in through musicbed, which was great. But it was a lot of just like, you know, just kind of strategy and, you know, me having someone to bounce stuff off of, which was really cool. And that's part of, to me, which I'm like, I would love to unlock that for other people, like help other people find what Kyle helped me find, is kind of like one of my like guiding like goals for as I navigate my musical, like, you know, adventure, is like, you know, that type of helping people with that perspective. That's so sick. Kyle, was it Kyle? Kyle.
Yeah, Kyle.
Helped you basically with the mindset shift, right? Like more
Right.
of
Yeah,
like,
totally.
why not shoot for the stars because others manage, and maybe that's possible for you. And this is now something where you feel like this would be great to help others maybe with, right? And this is so sick for me to hear, because my story is very, very parallel to what you just told us, except there's a key difference in that I started with pitching my music to playlists, and then one time a playlist curator got back to me and was like, this is actually great, do you want to release with us? And that was
Right.
Nathaniel from Sky Valley Records. And since
Yeah,
then
totally.
I've been releasing with him, but he's a real label. Sky Valley Records is like a complete label, and they have like huge guitar playlists, right? So
Right.
I have a classical 50-50 deal per song. I still own all my masters, and I'm really happy about that. But he
That's good,
takes
yeah.
care completely of the promotion and stuff. So now,
Yeah, that's awesome.
in the community, there's like kind of two groups. The people that already are releasing music and think about how can we make this more professional in a way, and then the people
Yeah.
starting out and being like, this is so cool, I want to start getting into playing guitar, I want to start recording my songs, I want to start putting out music, right? And these people I can always help only so far, because
Right.
at some point Nathaniel kind of took over for me.
Right.
You know, and
Yeah.
it's so interesting now having you being like, actually Kyle helped me change my mindset, and then, as it sounds like, you took it from there mostly by yourself still.
Yeah, totally. And definitely like I will maybe just caveat that like I definitely wouldn't be in this spot at all if it weren't for Kyle. So I think like I definitely owe him a ton. He's helped me out a ton. But I think it wasn't the traditional like label experience where like you sign with a label and then all of a sudden you are broadcast out to this massive like network of connections, or it's not like you get this huge influx of cash for promotion. Like, you know, so I still handled all the like logistics and promotion and mixing and mastering and like pretty much did all that myself, but it was just, it allowed me to be a lot more like focused and intentional with like where I wanted to go with my music, versus it being like, oh, I have to sign it over to a traditional label, or like, you know, I'm just going to keep doing this, like, you know, playing the lottery where I'm just like, oh, passively releasing out into the void and just hoping that something cool happens. So that's where like Kyle and Sonderhouse were definitely like the big, like pivotal moment. And he, so what's cool now is that I again, cause it's weird cause it's not like a traditional label in the sense, but like I still like, I help Kyle out a ton. So I do uploads and distribution for artists that have, you know, that where cause he's like swamped with his, you know, some of his like indie folk artists, they're doing like touring all the time and have like huge releases and all that stuff. So I kind of manage the like instrumental kind of like division of Sonderhouse, just kind of on the side. So it's kind of like a symbiotic relationship where it's like, you know, we still are like, you know, super close and catch up, you know, via text and periodically, but like I'm pretty much doing my own thing. I still cut him in, you know, a small percentage on everything that I do, just as like a, hey, like wouldn't be here without you type thing. And the distribution, I like upload all my stuff through the Sonderhouse distributor. So I don't have to, I just like, they have a really good interface, which I love. Like the editorial pitch is cool, but it's not like it's not a guaranteed thing. But like mostly I just don't, I really like that interface compared to DistroKid. So I'm just like, oh, I'll just keep using this one, which is cool. So yeah, it's a really good gig. I'm very fortunate to have like stumbled into this as kind of like this like partnership where it's like, you know, I have access to him as like, if I need to run anything by him, but honestly now it's just kind of like, you know, more just helping him out when he needs help with stuff, and I kind of do my own thing, which is very cool.
Because you know your way around by now, right?
A little bit. I'm still figuring it out. Still wouldn't say I know exactly what I'm doing, especially on like the marketing side. I'm definitely just like kind of grasping at straws, but it's been fun figuring it out.
Yeah, I mean that's the way, right? But yeah, it's so crucial to I mean, yeah, get help, just support. It's so interesting how different that can look, right? If it's someone just telling you, hey, by the way, it's possible, or if that's someone
Totally.
being like, hey, I believe in you, I'll take care for the promotion and we'll see how it grows, which was kind of how Nathaniel and my past started. Because when I signed to Sky Valley Records, or when I started releasing with them, because I'm releasing on a song per song basis with them,
Right.
probably
so you have some flexibility with what you do.
totally, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's good.
He only was releasing acoustic guitar music, and then it kind of started electronic guitar music with me. So he didn't
cool. I didn't realize that. Yeah,
he didn't.
That's really cool.
He was just being like, actually, I really love like Sean Angus Watson and Justice Dare, and you know, and
Yeah,
why
Sean is like the absolute legend.
the OG, yeah,
Yeah.
why not try to also take that side? And I guess he started it with me, and so we kind of grew together. It was like he didn't promise me anything, but it was more for me.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
I didn't realize, because I've definitely like, I think when I do my like playlist pitching, like I use a third party playlist pitching service now, because like I just don't have the time to do it like manually, where like you're like emailing people or sending DMs at this point. But Nathaniel, so Sky Valley is definitely like he helps me out all the time. Like when I have a new release, he always comes up on my pitching thing, and it's like, hey, Sky Valley accepted your thing. He writes a nice little comment. So definitely, like, I didn't realize that. I just assumed that you guys were always like, you know, like an ambient guitar kind of like realm. But I didn't realize you were kind of the OG with Sky Valley, because he's definitely helped me out a ton too with a lot of his like playlist submissions and stuff, which is really cool.
I think I wouldn't call myself the OG. I think this is how it happens. We might have to ask him in person at some point in the future. I would love to also have him on the podcast at some point. I think
I would love to
cool.
hear, because like definitely I don't want my story to be like a knock, you know, be like, oh, don't ever release with a traditional label. But it's like I think there's different pros and cons to different approaches, and you get different things. Like, you know, traditional label has a much more different value proposition than something like Sonderhouse, where it's like you're still on the hook to kind of do everything yourself, but you have more flexibility and more ownership. So I think I just didn't even know that option B existed. I thought it was either just like you got to sign to a label and give up all this stuff in exchange for XYZ, or you kind of have to do it completely by yourself and, you know, just kind of release into the void and hope that, like, you know, you get picked up by a algorithm or something. But there's kind of this like in between where you can do it. There's kind of a DIY possibility where you are doing it in a more intentional and strategic way that maybe takes, like, the thing that I always ask, or when I have people that I'm helping Kyle out with like onboarding and mentoring and stuff, is like, what does success look like to you? What's your time horizon? And then sadly, but like, what's your budget? Like, how much money are you willing to spend? Because like, depending on what those three things are, you may have to adjust, you know, what you think success looks like. If you want to have like, you know, 1 million monthly listeners within the next year, then you're going to need to spend a shit ton of money to get there. Or if you have really lofty goals, but you don't have that big of a budget, it's going to take you much longer. So just kind of like setting those expectations of, you know, what does success look like? And like, for me, it's always been like a marathon, not a sprint, where I'm like I'm always thinking like 5 years out. Like, I think I'm probably, this is 5 years of From Somewhere Quiet, and then plus an additional like 2-ish when I was doing the post rock stuff. So it's like 7 years plus if you add, like, I've been writing and like composing and like somewhat recording music probably since I was in high school. Mm-hmm. So that's like another, I don't want to date myself, but like probably 20 plus years of, you know, like work and hours going into this. So there's like, I always just want people to be like, just appreciate there's not really any shortcuts, especially for people that are starting brand new. They're like, don't really play guitar, but they're really interested in the ambient guitar stuff. It's definitely like, you know, it takes a lot of commitment and a lot of hours and sometimes a lot of money to, you know, to get to where someone like me might be, you know, even after 7 years.
Yeah, totally. Oh my God, you said already so many things I wanted to remember. I think one thing that definitely listeners screamed in my ear, I had a feeling while you were saying it, is the playlist pitching service you're using.
Oh,
Does that have a name?
Used Playlist Push. It's one of the ones. So like I'll caveat with like I think I mentioned earlier, like I still work a full-time day job. So like to me, my limitations and my constraints are more time-based in terms of like the how many hours do I have in a day to do music stuff. So like Playlist Push is definitely like, it's expensive for sure. Like it's one of those things where you probably open it up and you're like, oh, I want to do a campaign. And then you get to the page and you're like, well, absolutely not. Like, I remember I got to that point where I was like, no way am I going to spend like, you know, hundreds of dollars on a playlist pitching campaign. And then I would just go to something like SubmithHub where you'd spend like maybe $20 and you could maybe mix and match and choose your own. But at this point, I'm like, I don't have the time. And like, I'm fortunate enough that after doing this for 7 years, like I essentially just, anything that I make from music, I put back into to grow this project. So I'm like, it kind of just happened naturally where like, as my music grew, my like monthly income from streaming and stuff, you know, slowly was creeping up over the years. And then eventually got to the point where I was like, oh, this actually like, why not use this automated server, like kind of more automated service that costs more because it saves me the time that I don't really have in my, you know, in my day to day. So definitely just want to caveat that for people to like, if people are going like, oh, Playlist Push, and then they go in and they're like, holy crap, like no way am I doing that. Just wanted to give that context, but you can accomplish the same thing if you have the time. Like what I did when I started was just send emails, send DMs, use something like SubmithHub. You can like achieve the same result or a very similar result as what you get with the Playlist Push campaign, but you just have to kind of put in more hours. That's where I always come back around to like what's your level of success, how much time do you have, and how much money you're willing to spend. You can kind of play with those different, you know, levers to you know, kind of land in the right spot.
It's like a flexible triangle that kind of has a very big influence on the other points.
Totally.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But I think that also answered one of the other questions I still had, is like, you had this mindset, mindset opener through Kyle, and you were like, okay, this is actually possible. I would love to do that. Let's go. And then you started doing it yourself first. You probably didn't use Playlist Push by then, and you DM'd curators and you did SubmithHub. What else would you say were your main things to promote, or maybe also how else did you make music? Maybe.
So some of the things that I think like practically changed, like I would say I was still like writing and recording music the same. It was more just, I would say more kind of like the business logistics side of things that I would maybe be more thoughtful and intentional about. So like, licensing, for example. So like through Kyle, I kind of got to learn, and it's definitely a lot different now. I think with the, like, if you wind back even like 5-10 years, I think the licensing industry for like instrumental music was a lot more lucrative than it is now. Like, you know, there are stories of people that like, if you land like a global ad campaign for like Microsoft or something, like as an independent, like ambient composer, you could get a check for like $100,000, like, or more, and then you still get the residuals, like the performance royalties on the back end. So that's like, those are the types of things that Kyle was like, there are people out there that are doing that with very similar music to the music that you make. And it's just like getting in front of the right people and that kind of stuff. And so that's where the other thing, in addition to like the playlist pitching, the licensing side of things, like I kind of, and this was already in line with kind of my philosophy, which is like, I just want to build a giant catalog of like really sick music that I own all the rights to. And I want to be able to make that available to like filmmakers and directors and music supervisors. And then people can just browse it at their own leisure if they have a project that's coming up and they're like, hey, can I license this song? And I can be like, yep, what's your budget? And they can be like $10. And I'll be like, cool. Or they could be like $10,000. And I'll be like, cool, like whatever, pretty much whatever your project is, and just kind of have that as like a supplementary kind of income stream. So like that was kind of the other strategic thing that like the little seeds that I've been planting for years was like putting tons of hours into like, you know, like I'm recording and releasing the music anyway, but like making sure I have all the stems, like art, kind of like managing my catalog with like the metadata and tagging and keeping it maintained in this, like I use this system called Disco, that you can like build your own catalog and you can like give clients like, you know, the privileged access so they can browse it and they can click a button and say, hey, I want to license this song. So like that was something that it took me like years to set up and also like get to that point where I had enough music where it was even like where it even makes sense to do my own kind of catalog. So that was another thing that mindset shift was like, okay, if I started being more intentional with how I'm maintaining my catalog now, like 5 years from now, I'll be set up in a way better position if someone comes to me and is like, hey, we want to license your song for XYZ and we're willing to pay you like, you know, $10,000 for it. Like I want to be like ready to go if that ever happens.
So you got into musicbed, but you also have built your own library, which is called Northwind.
Yeah, that's kind of my like little kind of my umbrella for all of my like I'm still not technically like I forget in the States, it's like I'm like a sole proprietorship or something. Like I'm not like a formal business entity or anything, but that's like my own kind of brand for all the musical stuff that I do. So all my like my different like instrumental monikers that I release under are kind of like under that umbrella, and then the licensing stuff. And now like some of the stuff that I'm like very early on with like the Patreon stuff, but like doing like sample libraries or like those kind of things, I kind of just, that's like my like business entity to kind of capture all that stuff.
It's getting more complex.
Yeah, and there's like guide me wherever you think would be best to go, because we could nerd out about a million different topics for probably several hours.
Exactly. So yeah, but maybe we can help each other. If there's something you realize, oh, it makes sense to talk about this first, please feel free to take the loop.
And I also have you can probably tell because my face lights up when I open a different window, but I do have the guitarwavers questions up too, like that
nice.
little thread.
Yeah, I mean,
so I can also kind of like skim through that to see if there is anything that comes up. I think a couple people did ask about like the licensing stuff. So maybe like for how that coexists with musicbed. So like musicbed they have like so I license all of my, not all of it, but like a good chunk of my From Somewhere Quiet catalog with musicbed. And it's just on their website. And I think nowadays they're mostly like subscription based for like YouTubers or people that are just paying a monthly subscription, and you get like a tiny piece of the pie type thing. Every once in a while, they also do like single one-off licenses that are like a little bit more substantial, but they're pretty good because it's like relatively consistent. It's nothing like, order of magnitude, like, income wise isn't like crazy, but it's pretty stable. And like every time I upload a new song there's like a little bump because it's like on their new music list. So that's definitely good. And it definitely gets my music out there to like filmmakers and stuff. but primarily like the main, like I would say, like client gigs that I've gotten have just been like me, like almost cold calling or cold emailing like filmmakers and directors that like I would spend some time, you know, it was probably like over the last couple of years, I would always try to carve out a little bit of time here and there to just kind of browse through some of the like filmmaker blogs and like kind of like showcase websites where like if you're a filmmaker, you want to submit your stuff to this website and then they'll showcase it for you type thing. And they each has their own like curation style. So I would kind of spend some time going through, and I'm way more interested in short films. So I don't want to say no desire, but like feature length films, like no way. Like I've turned down like feature film gigs before because it's just like way too much. I don't have the time to score like a 90 minute like, you know, like with all the, you know, all the different cues and writing themes and that kind of stuff. That's just like not kind of the vibe that I'm into. But like short films and commercials and branded content and that kind of stuff is really interesting to me. So I would kind of, you know, browse through those like blogs, and you know, whenever I came across something that either I thought was really cool or was like I noticed they were using a similar style of music to this music that I make, I would like look and see who the filmmaker was or the director or the music supervisor, whoever, and then I would try to find their contact and be like, hey, I was just browsing XYZ, saw your film XYZ, and it was like, you know, totally blew me away. Would love to, you know, I make similar music. If you're ever interested, like would love to, you know, work together sometime. And I'd always do it for free. Like I'm just like, I just do this for fun on the side. Like, and then, so that's how I kind of built, like, I have a very small client base right now for filmmakers, but, so it's definitely not my, like, you know, not a substantial source of income yet at all. But it's like, I know that those people that I connected with, like, I want to grow with them. So like, as I kind of plant the seeds with them, and they're just like, I've had so much fun, like similar to like meeting yourself and others. It's just like, a great way to just like get the social connection and kind of nerd out with other creative people. So like, you know, I would probably, it's kind of like getting at the ground floor with other people who are just doing passion projects and stuff. I'd offer up my music. I'd write custom music here and there for those kind of folks. And then every once in a while, someone will come back and be like, hey, you helped me out with this kind of like my passion project. Now I'm doing this like paid gig and I can actually like, you know, give you a little bit of, you know, pay you a little bit for this project or whatever. So like nothing crazy, but you know, who knows, like it could be one of those things where one of my buddies who is making films, you know, could be doing like pretty big projects, you know, in his future career or her future career. And like, I want them to like have me in the back of their mind being like, oh, this would be great if we could bring Brian on as the composer or like use some of his music. So again, it's one of those, like, I think delayed gratification and patience, I think, are the key for, I would say, a lot of music, but definitely that are like instrumental music where like, you know, those relationships and all the work that I put in like years ago to build the library, to like spend a couple hours cold emailing people, like those may not pay off for, you know, years, if ever, but like I want to have as many of those little seeds planted as I possibly can. And I just like doing it. Like if it were up to me, I would want like my time to be split 50-50 kind of those projects, and then 50-50 like or like 50% the kind of more releasing artist type music type stuff. I think that would be the dream.
Delayed gratification is such a important word that sums it up perfectly. What I feel like makes people get somewhere at the end,
totally,
versus not, right? Because you always talk about you have to be consistent, or everything is possible if you just don't give up. But that's just the very zoomed out view on what is happening. The question is, how do you get there? And I feel like delayed gratification explains it way better, because it tells you what you will have to endure. It means that it might not get you anywhere for a certain period of time, and then you're in the position it grows, right?
Yeah, and I think like for me, there's like two dimensions to it, where it's like I think your word choice of like what you have to endure is, I think, also really critical, because I think for me there's like two dimensions. It's one, you have to put in a ton of work and a ton of hours that you might not see anything for, but then also for who knows how long, if not ever. So you have to be willing to be like, I might not see any benefit of what I'm doing ever. And you have to be like comfortable with that. Like, and I'll use myself as an example. This like Patreon thing that I'm doing, like, I have no idea. Like, this is like a 5-year plan for me, where like I have no expectations for this thing, really at all in the near term. Like I said, like if I can get, a couple people maybe to comment on something or hang out every once in a while. But like, I just don't want to miss the opportunity that if in 5 years from now, with all the, how the streaming is doing, I want a place to catch people that find what I do and want to just be able to support me and take that support a little bit further. So like, I'm doing all this work now for a potential opportunity, like, who knows how far in the future. And it was similar with building the licensing library, where I'm like, I spent so many hours building the website, the disco catalog, the actual browsable catalog with the metadata and the tags and the stems and everything, the like artwork for all the playlists and everything. And like that, no, someone might not actually utilize that. Like every once in a while it gets utilized, but that might just sit there for years, and who knows? And like, I have to be okay with that. Like, I have to be willing to kind of just sit with that and endure the fact that like you put in all that work and it might not pay off in the way that you hoped it would. I think that's like a reality of kind of the, especially in the instrumental world, where you're like, a lot of us aren't like doing tours and stuff. You kind of have to rely on some of these other kind of like, these other channels to kind of like, I don't want to just say monetize, but to like kind of like build your kind of ecosystem of support.
Yeah. And how you tackle the film industry and composing for film is exactly down that alley as well, right?
Yeah, totally.
Growing up with them. And it's such a great idea to like look out for movies that have maybe very similar sound, music, and then write the directors directly. It's kind of pitching to a playlist in a way, right?
Yeah, but it's very similar.
Yeah, because I had this I think the last song I released, my fiance and I, we were watching this Netflix series. It's called Nero or something.
Okay, yeah.
Nero. And it has this kind of Western Hermanos Gutierrez vibe to it. And I recorded a song. We were just in Sweden in nature. And it somehow, after watching the series, it just happened to sound very similar to that kind of world. The question how that happened is very easily answered, I guess. And I was wondering, because for me it's still an unopened book, the whole film licensing world. How would I get, because I feel like, okay, this song is actually good, I really like it, I really think it's okay, and I could see it on something like, it doesn't have to be a Netflix show, right? But it would be so cool, right? And then I was like, hey, maybe I should write the director who did the series. But that's where it stopped. So it's really good to hear you saying like, no, I'm actually putting in a lot of hours, not only there, but also in the catalog, to prepare myself to maybe at some point harness all the seeds I planted, right? Yeah. One might grow into a tree.
For sure.
Yeah, it's just a very good reminder that it's important to be proactive in that way.
Yeah, and I think especially with music, probably maybe film is similar, but like there's no like expiration date on a good song, right? Like that's why I always felt very strongly about like building my catalog, but not only that, but like maintaining ownership of everything that I write, because like I think the most maybe the most like significant dramatic example that is like orders of magnitude crazier than anything that we're doing, but with I'm gonna forget the Stranger Things song. Did you watch Stranger Things?
I didn't, but I know that it's running up that hill.
Yeah, Kate Bush.
Song?
There's like some song from like the 80s that she I don't know how prominent she was, but she owned all of her masters in publishing for that song. And then flash forward like 40 years, and it gets picked up by possibly the biggest television series like at least in the US. It was huge. And like that's a very like over the top example, but that type of thing can also be true for any of us, where it's like if you build this catalog and it's out there and people can find it, especially with these days of algorithms and like sound bites on TikTok and Instagram and stuff. Like no one hears a song and is like, this song is awesome. And then they look at the date and like, oh, this song came out like 3 years ago. Now I hate it. It's like, people just love the music.
It's expired.
Yeah.
You cannot listen to that anymore.
So like, I think that's like, it kind of plays into that delayed gratification, but you can also be planting these seeds that like, when I'm like listening to stuff on Spotify and I just get like, on some radio or, on the autoplay after an album finishes, and it throws me something. Some of currently my favorite artists that I'm listening to now, I just discovered music that they put out in like 2017, and I'm just like constantly listening to this album over and over again. And like, I want that. I'm like thinking about that when I'm putting out music, like just making my albums, putting them out there. People might find it, years from now. But I want to be doing stuff that'll keep that open, whether it's streaming or playlisting or licensing or whatever. Just kind of, planting all these little seeds to pay off in the future, I think is kind of the theme, at least for my mindset.
Okay, we have different routes. Maybe we can decide together.
Yeah, totally.
Because we still have the open loop of the switch that happened end of last year with the last Spotify Wrapped, I think, for you, where you got a lot of messages, and now you're starting to explore Patreon. What's the other one?
Yeah, I tried Substack for a little bit, it didn't quite pan out. Like, and it still exists, but I think I misunderstood some of its capabilities and some of the way that the tool as a tool was structured. And that's where I ultimately came back around to Patreon. So like posting things like if I want to do tabs for my songs or sheet music, or like I do a lot of my own, like, you can see my crazy spaceships pedal board there, like like sound design, like and like people have always asked about like sample packs and that kind of stuff, and hosting that kind of stuff for people to purchase, or for like people to subscribe as a Patreon member and then be able to have free access to all that stuff. That works way better on Patreon than it does on Substack. Substack's more like a newsletter kind of publication. It's like intended more for that. So I kind of teetered back and forth, and ultimately went, I'm just going to like go all in on the Patreon thing. But and that mind shift happened, I think, just because of I think for a couple of things, but also just the like the nature of the instrumental streaming universe is that there's a lot, like, it's easy for it to get missed and for it to not feel very personal. Like we can talk more about kind of like active versus passive listening, that stuff. I know you've talked about it a bunch on some of the other episodes, but I think I get a lot of fulfillment out of like the effect that it has on real people. And I started to appreciate that more and more over the years as more people would contact me and be like, hey, like I was really depressed, and then I found your album and like it really helped. Or like my grandparent died and I just happened to find this at that time and it really helped me through, like that kind of, I was like, holy shit. Like those types of things would happen, period, like very rarely, years ago, but then they kept happening more and more frequently as like my music got more and more out there. And those were the things where I was like, I got so much more fulfillment out of like a single message like that than when I like got a response on playlist push and it was like, you got added to a playlist with 10,000 followers. And I was like, cool, who cares? So it was kind of that mindset shift again, like maybe teasing a little bit. I'm sure we'll talk about like, marketing, but like more of leaving that stuff as like this is how people will discover my music. But I want there to be a home, like a place for them to land at the very end of their discovery journey that is like, oh, like I want to support Brian the human being, or I want to like, join his Patreon or like buy one of his albums. Like I don't do like merch, like I don't have t-shirts or like records and stuff like that has always felt like not super what I wanted to do. But like the community stuff is really interesting to me, and doing more of this type of stuff and chatting with people and figuring out how can I, like, what value can I add back into the lives of these people that are like really supporting what I do. So that was kind of the mindset shift that happened definitely after Spotify Wrapped, and I saw some of the numbers of like how many people were listening to like not just passively but being like, hey, you were like the person that I listened to the most for an entire year. I was like, this is insane.
What are you doing?
Yeah. Go do something else. No, I'm very grateful for everyone that listens. It doesn't compute in my brain still, because I just feel like just a regular dude who like works a job and like, this is just kind of a side hobby, if I can call it a hobby, but for me. But so the fact that people would be like, hey, I spent 10,000 hours or whatever listening to your music on Spotify, it was like insane.
I mean, I think I think also it's insane, and it's crazy that that we have the opportunity also through Spotify Wrapped and stuff to realize these things, but also I think the distance between just sitting in your studio and having the mindset of this is kind of a hobby and I really like doing it, and then you press upload and then you see some numbers, of course, but it's just numbers at the end of the day, and almost feels like a computer game or something. But it's kind of detached from reality. And then you get these messages and suddenly it's like, fuck, every time one person streams, there's like 2 minutes or 3 minutes in someone's life where I'm also in the room kind of or something. I don't know. It's like this weird...
It's insane. And I think that's the thing that I am chasing now. Like, I think back in the day, I like was chasing the numbers and like the, I want to trigger the algorithm. Like I'm still doing that on the side, like or very actively being very strategic and intentional about how I like, I don't know, like I know a lot about how the Spotify algorithm works. Like probably spent almost too much time diving into like, like how it works and what you can do to help cater to it and that kind of stuff, which is like insane. But it's like, that's the current climate of being a, independent musician these days. But I don't want that to be the focus. I want that to be the means through which I accomplish the real connections with people. So I think it's like, trying to make sure that in the way that I'm doing this, I can do both and not like, not just be kind of chasing the numbers or like the algorithm, placements, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And how would you say, on the one hand, we have the person that is streaming your music and that might stream it in the beginning passively, like through an programmed source, right? In Spotify for artists, it's I think clustered in programmed and then active or something, right? So that means it's through the algorithm, it's radio, it's Discover Weekly, whatever. And then on the other hand, you have now your Patreon. What has to happen to get them to Patreon? Because it's still a far way in a way, right?
That's the $1 million question, man. Like, if I can figure that out, then I will let you know. But I have no idea. Like,
call me anytime.
That's why people. like, and I didn't get a chance to dig through it, but I saw that you get on the guitarwavers that you guys had maybe like a topic that was about kind of like, you know, passive, like kind of the more marketing side of things. And I haven't really, in the way that I have, like, this is a tangent, but like I overthink things to the, like, you know, my brain is just constantly going all the time in a million different directions. And sometimes it's not great, but then sometimes I can almost like harness it to go down these rabbit holes. And like, you know, things like the Spotify algorithm, I have a lot of interest and tolerance to just like go really deep. I haven't done that yet with marketing, and like, how do you convert, you know, these active listeners or passive listeners to active listeners to, you know, people who are, you know, advocates for you, that like whatever. I just like, I heard the word funnel in a podcast, like a podcast related to, like, I like to run. That's one of the other things that I do. I was listening to a running podcast, and one of the guys who has a YouTube channel about running was talking about like funnels as a marketing concept. And like, that was enough for me to just be like, oh, duh. Like I can comprehend how a funnel might work. And that's where I was like, oh, I'm missing the bottom of the funnel. Like I'm spending all this effort on the streaming and the playlists and all that stuff, but those are all just means of discovery, not necessarily means of like, you know, real meaningful connection and you know, having people that are loyal to you as a person or a brand, or, you know, will advocate for you, that kind of stuff. So that's where what's interesting is that and now we're kind of going more in the marketing direction. But like I think from me as an artist, that people will listen to my music. I think I've been spending all these years unintentionally kind of building the top of the funnel, which is like all the streaming stuff. And then I'm just now realizing that like, oh, I don't have anywhere for these people to go. Because one, I don't sell, like for a lot of people, it's like, oh, I want them to buy my merch. Like I want them to buy a t-shirt or buy a vinyl record or buy a ticket to my concert or whatever. Like I don't have any of that stuff. So for me, it's like, okay, how can I come up with some sort of value proposition that is like, hey, if you get to if you discover my music and then you do some digging, you're like, oh, he has an Instagram, let's follow him on Instagram. And I love all these little clips of his songs or whatever, like trying to figure out things that I can offer that are unique and valuable. So that's where like live streaming sounds cool. Like, you know, doing more behind the scenes, like of like the creative process and like things like Pro Tools sessions. And then like, you know, sound sample libraries, potentially like tabs and sheet music. Like one of the things that is interesting, that's a challenging maybe for me, is like the population of my like fans, if you can call them that are like musicians versus just listeners. Cause like, okay, if you're not a musician, you probably don't care that I put up sheet music or guitar tabs. Mm-hmm. But like maybe you care about a Pro Tools session breakdown. Like, I don't know. Like that's to your point. Like, what do you do? How do you get these people to, you know, to follow you all the way? Like, I have no idea what the answer is, and we're gonna try to figure it out, and we're gonna put it all out there and see what you know, what people are into. Maybe what turns people away. They're like, oh, this is weird, I'm not into this anymore. But yeah, I'm kind of in that learning phase right now. And then maybe one other comment is on the other side. I would say on the licensing side, I would say I've already built the bottom of the funnel. Like that's the music, that's the library, that's the like the pretty like efficient system where like you can log in, you can have client access, you can browse, you click one button. This is not automated, so I still have to do it manually, but then like I send you a licensing agreement based on your budget, you know, and then, you know, then you can use the song for whatever you want. But I'm doing nothing right now at the top funnel level other than just like, I haven't done this in probably like months or probably even a year at this point, which is like, other than just emailing one-off emails to filmmakers, like that's not super sustainable. So I think my vision, if I'm ever going to do this full time, is like, I need to sort out the bottom of the funnel on the music side, and then sort out the top of the funnel on like the composer side. And I think if I can nail both of those two things, I think I can make this a real thing. But I have no idea how long that's going to take. I have no idea what it's going to look like. I have no idea like how to get from point A to point B. But I've always been very like process focused and not outcome focused. I think that's like, I didn't make that up. That's like a very common thing, but it's always resonated with me. So I'm like, I'm having a lot of fun doing it. So if it takes me 2 years, if it takes me 5 years, if it takes me 10 years, like I'm just here for the ride. So, and it's fun now to have people, like a little community of guitar wavers and Sebastians that we can like kind of like problem solve and nerd out and figure out what the hell to do together.
Yeah, exactly. That's basically what we have in the community, this structure. It's a little irregular, but it's kind of every month we choose one topic a lot of people are struggling with, and then we nerd out about it and try to get like everybody's perspective. And then at the end of the month we do like a focus topic call where I try to
like distill down
distill all the learnings exactly into like a best practice right now kind of the group. And the fun thing is, the more we grow as a community, the more knowledge we get in a way, and the more we can help each other out. So this month's focus topic is actually engaging passive listeners.
Nice.
So it's exactly that topic. And that
was one of the things when I was scrolling through, I was like, I like didn't get a chance to read out, but I was like, oh, there's people in this group that know way more about funnels than I do. like it's really interesting to me to in one, on one side of the spectrum have people like, again, I still don't consider myself really an expert in any of these things. I kind of just am stumbling my way through it. But to have some people who are looking up at me being like, oh, I want to learn from what that guy's doing is still like insane to me. Cause I'm also looking down being like, oh, what is that? This guy just said he knows a lot about funnels. Like, I want to go talk to that guy. And like, he's probably at the same time being like, oh, I want to hear what he is. So it's a really cool kind of dynamic that I'm excited to kind of like, explore and learn from, which is, I think it'll be fun.
Yeah. The cool thing is about a place like this is that I feel like in our normal thinking, it's like, I look up to you or I look down to you. It's kind of like a vertical axis, but the community puts it into a horizontal axis, and suddenly we are like in a circle, right? And we're like, what do you know? What do you know? Blah blah blah. And it's way easier to talk to each other. And I don't know. So maybe I thought because we also realized in the community that funnel is kind of a very effective way to talk about the whole spiel. Yeah. And it feels very digital bro kind of marketing wording, but in a way it is a funnel, right? And so I think what you just described is that with the music, you already have a really good top of funnel situation, and now you're building the bottom of the funnel with Patreon. And with the licensing, you have a bottom of the funnel nailed, but you don't have the top of the funnel. What we haven't talked so much in detail, and maybe we can do it by just going through different options, is talking about the middle of the funnel. Yeah. And being like, okay, what ways are there theoretically? We don't even have to know, because that's the boat we're both kind of, and the community in right now. It's like, we don't know where we're sailing. It's kind of exploratory. So one topic I find very interesting and I wanted to ask you about is, how important do you think visuals are?
That's a good question. I think artwork, I go back and forth. So like for something like From Somewhere Quiet, that like I'm super fortunate that I found this photographer on Instagram like couple of years ago, and I just loved her style. And yes. I just send her whenever I'm working on music, I just browse her Instagram. I favorite or make a short list of ones that I like. And then when I have all my masters ready to go and I'm just listening through my album, or when it's, so what's implied here is that I don't release anything until the whole album is done. So like I release a song, like I have this like pretty much one song every 4 weeks kind of cadence. But before the first single comes out, like the Exhale that came out today, like that, this whole album is completely done. Like masters, artwork, like meta ads are all queued up and ready to go on a timer, like all that stuff. And the album won't come out until like October. so like I like that. So the artwork is something to me that I'm like, I pretty much wait till I have the full body of work done, and then I kind of sit with it and I kind of synthesize, like I listen through it as I'm browsing, in this case, this one photographer's catalog, and then I kind of pick out the ones that resonate to me with each song. So it's very intentional for me and very like methodical to make sure that the artwork that I choose is like representing the piece of music. That being said, I do have like, before I got there, like I definitely used like stock photos like early on. Mm-hmm. Like I'm at the point now where I can like, I'm very happy to pay this woman who does my art, because I'm like, this wouldn't be the same without your art. So like, but not everyone's in that situation. So it's like, I definitely use like Canva like early on. I would just like go find like a mountain picture or something and just use that. So something that I thought was cool. But I think it's important. I think you want it to elevate or like be complementary to the like what you're trying to get across with the music. But yeah, I'm definitely not. Some people like make their own art. I don't have the skill set to, to do my own graphics and that kind of thing. So I usually just outsource it because it's not where I'm good at. I'm not super interested in like getting really good at Photoshop or like whatever skills you need to be able to do cool graphic stuff. That's something that I'm like definitely willing to just like pay someone who's way better at it than I am.
Yeah. Yeah, because I was wondering how you get these like beautiful. They have so much movement in them, right? And
yeah,
but she does the editing also.
It's a real person. It's not like I've had people being like, "Is this AI?" Definitely not AI. It's a real. Her name's Laura Zimmerman. She's on Instagram. I think it's like at Laura Zim. Yeah, but she's great. She does these like, I think I'm not a photographer, but I think it's like long exposure kind of like technique on normally like the ocean and like sunrise and sunset, and she does all these really cool that's how she gets these like kind of very like like a lot of movement, very dynamic stills, is with I think some long exposure stuff. But yeah, it's super cool. And then I also have, we haven't talked about that, I also have like a lo-fi, ambient lo-fi project moniker type thing that's different from Somewhere Quiet. And that I found like a different graphic artist who like I loved his stuff, and I use that guy for that project. I use Laura for my ambient stuff. So I try to find like kind of a consistent theme where it can try to be as consistent as I can, so that like when you're browsing like from Somewhere Quiet, it feels very cohesive.
That's very interesting, because I was wondering how you managed to get like such a quality overall look and feel. I didn't know about is that Oak Meadow? No, is that the lo-fi?
So Oak Meadow is the post-rock one. Oak Meadow was the very first one, and then there's another one called Early Lights that's like my lo-fi kind of like ambient. It's actually interesting. It's a lot of acoustic guitar, because that I actually started as an acoustic guitarist before I owned an electric. So that's cool. It's like I don't put a lot of time and calories into that one. I just have put out I think like 2 EPs over the last couple of years. But every once in a while, I'll like, if I have something that I write on acoustic and I'm like, oh, this would be cool with some like kind of like lo-fi drums, I kind of like shelve it for that project. But the art, I think the art for both of those projects has kind of followed a similar kind of vibe.
Because we had this topic in the community. Why don't you just use AI, right, and make pictures like that, because it's so easy right now? And I always don't really know.
I think it's a totally valid question. I think I'm definitely not someone who is like, if you use AI because I think there's a school of thought that is like AI is like inhumane to artists and that kind of thing. Like I don't necessarily view it that way. I think it's like I'm still like I'm a millennial, like, and I like jokingly to my like even at work, like they're really pushing at my job like all these AI tools, being like, use it for all this stuff, and I'm like, dude, like leave me alone. I like the way that I do things. I don't want to try it. I feel like a boomer. I'm just like, don't want to adapt to this new thing. So I'm also similar to that with music. Like I haven't really started using it for anything, but I could see it being used for things where like you wouldn't necessarily like, pay a human, or you don't have the budget to pay a human, like something like replacing stock photography or stock images or whatever. I could see that being a very compelling use case for AI to be like, oh, I could go to Canva, I could pay the $10 a month Canva subscription and download these stock photos, or I could, put a prompt into whatever, ChatGPT or whatever, and you maybe get a slightly more custom, more flexible output from AI than you would with stock. But like someone like Laura's photos, like you're never going to get like that. I don't think she will ever be replaced by AI for what someone like me uses her for, because it needs to be very human. It needs to be very like meaningful in how it supports the music. And like, I just don't think you're going to get that with AI. And I don't think the people that would use AI for their art, those aren't the people that would go hire Laura to do like their art in the first place. Like I feel like there is a niche that AI will like consume, or it will sort of cannibalize, but I don't think that's the type of, art or like photographers and graphic designers and stuff that I usually collaborate with. But who knows? There may be like if I'm starting a brand new project and it has like 0 listeners and I haven't quite found the sound yet, maybe I would use AI to do like the art for my early singles before I kind of find the groove, or before I have a budget for it. But I don't really know.
Or a feeling for what it wants to be, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of fun or easy to use in the beginning to explore, because it's low effort in a way. But I like the notion of it's hard to replace a certain kind of tastefulness
Totally.
consistently in a way, right? And by outsourcing it, how you do it, you kind of have that. So would you say that plays an important role in engaging people from passive listeners to active listeners, or would you say that really doesn't matter so
That's
much?
a good
It's
question.
just your personal taste.
I think I'm going to say yes. And the reason why I'm saying yes is actually like very recent, and it actually has nothing to do with the art, but it has to do with the name of my project, From Somewhere Quiet. I got an Instagram DM from some person that just followed me being like, hey, it was the name From Somewhere Quiet that got me to like be like, oh, that's interesting. I want to hear what that sounds like, and got him, like you said, top of the funnel to probably not to the Patreon, but at least to the point where he's sending me a personal message saying, and it was just the name From Somewhere Quiet. So like, I'm sure the same thing could happen with the artwork, like where you hear something maybe on a playlist that you're not really paying attention to. And it catches your attention, then you go look at it and you see a cool picture that guy can probably get you to take the next step and be like, oh, I wonder what this is. So I would say it's probably, it's probably not the only thing, but it's probably a piece of the puzzle, or can certainly contribute to that, like, flow of interest. And
if people, because I would say so too, like, but it's until now, and just a gut feeling for me. I don't really have any data on why I think visuals matter, especially in instrumental music, because I feel like it's the branding in a way, right? The name is part of the branding, the visuals are part of the branding. It's the whole experience that kind of make people gravitate towards saying like, okay, next time I'm in a mood to listen to instrumental music, this is the whole vibe, the whole package I want to get. So for me, I always try to make sure I put a lot of thought and effort to have everything remain in the same kind of world.
Yeah. And I think that's interesting, because I think that plays into the whole like active versus passive, or like active versus programmed, because like a lot of people, I feel like I've heard kind of think about active versus passive as like what the person is doing while they're listening to the music, which like, that's not really how I think about it. It's like, like I think you can actively, like, I think if you're listening to music while you're reading or studying or whatever, that can also be active listening.
For me, I always try to think, put myself into the shoes of the person stumbling upon my music in a programmed way, right? So they maybe passively, you were saying you don't think about passive and active listening in the classic connotation in a way, right?
Yeah, and I'm interested in your thoughts too, but I think like a lot of people, I think when people hear active versus passive, the first thing they think about is like, what is the person doing while they're listening to the music? Like, are they reading? Are they sleeping? Like sleep music, especially, I feel like is the thing, because you're literally asleep. So like, how is that not
very
passive
active
listening?
Yeah, exactly.
But I think to me, it's less about like, what is the listener doing while they're consuming the music, and more like the intent behind what they selected for the music. So like if someone comes to my profile, or someone is like, I want to listen to From Somewhere Quiet because he helps me fall asleep, like to me, that's active listening. Like that is an engaged, active listener. And like, even if they're dead asleep for like 8 hours while they stream my playlist, like that to me is that's an active listener. And I think that mindset is helpful for me when I navigate like, how am I going to approach this whole like, building a community, like building an engaged fan base type thing, is like, I would love it if someone, like, I get comments sometimes where like, oh, I hope this doesn't sound wrong, but like I put on your music when I need to fall asleep, or like I put it on for my daughter, my like 1-year-old daughter, when she's like having a fit and it calms her down or whatever. And I'm like, those are some of my favorite messages. When I'm like, but in the context of active versus passive, there are some people who are like, oh, well, I don't want people to just like, or if they're just listening to my music passively while they're reading, then that doesn't really count. But then I'm thinking about myself, and I was like, when's the last time you put on music and just like sat there and that's all you were doing was listening to the music? Like I listen to like a lot of different types of music, but like, I can't think of a time where I'm not also doing something else while I'm listening to music. So to me, it's like that kills to me the whole passive listener thing. Because even like Taylor Swift, like if you're blasting Taylor Swift in the car, like by the other definition, that's like, someone would say that's passive listening, because that's not the main thing that they're doing at the time. So I think to me it's more about intent, and are they actively choosing, what are they choosing for their music? And that's where it gets into like, oh, if they're choosing a playlist that they really like, or a radio station that they really like, then they're not really choosing me, or they're not really choosing Sebastian. They're choosing like I don't know, like the Sky Valley playlist, and maybe they know who some of the roster is and that kind of stuff. But that's where I've always felt like I want to facilitate and support and invest in, like, I'm not going to not invest in something or like pursue something because someone might be doing something else while they listen to my music. Like I want those people just as much, and those people are just as important to me as the people that maybe like go on Bandcamp and like, pay $1 to download one of my singles or something like that. So it kind of changes the calculus a little bit of how to approach fans. If you think about those, like maybe what some people think of passive listeners, and like, if you're gonna like, before you go to bed, you're gonna go to open Spotify and you're going to click From Somewhere Quiet, and you're going to be like, Brian's helping me fall asleep tonight. Like, I love you. Like I want 1 million of you to exist in my little sphere of fans. And like, that can be like, I don't think a lot of people maybe think about it in that way. They think more about, I need people to come into Bandcamp and buy my records or go buy a t-shirt to really be like a true fan. So it just, to me, it opens up maybe the possibilities a little bit for how to think about fans and like converting listeners, where it doesn't always have to be about like getting them to like make a purchase necessarily, or like join a live stream.
I think that's such a good and necessary reframe, like just the word intent, like getting people to, in a way, remember you for a specific thing they are looking for, maybe, right?
And to me, it's like, are they choosing you? Like they have intentionally chosen my music for whatever the thing that maybe they're doing passively, but like, to me, that's still like that active engagement that I'm looking for.
In a way, it doesn't matter, right, for what they are choosing it. It's like,
right,
do they, and how do you get them to remember you enough that they say like, this was great for that specific occasion. So, and then in my head, the question is what I always try to imagine, like when someone comes across my music, in a programmed way, so in a random way. What I would say is very passive listening at that point, right? Also with your definition.
Yep.
And then they are maybe like, how do you get them even to stop their passiveness in that moment and be like, okay, I like this music enough, so I click on the profile. So in your case, for example, they saw the name and they were like, oh, this sounds like this is down my alley. I like that vibe. I want to check out more of it. For me, I also think about, I want to make sure that the music is as best as possible.
If you didn't say it, I was going to say it, which is like the first thing is the music. Like the first thing that's going to get someone that's passively engaging or engaging with your music in a programmed like format, like a radio or a play, like a Spotify playlist or something, is like, it's got to be the music. And I think that's part of the, like, especially with some of the, conversations about people's journeys and how do they get, like, the reality is when you're first making music, you just might not have that. Your music might just not be compelling enough for people to pause, or for people to not skip it, or for people to like take that next step. And so I think that's where like it feeds back into kind of the thing that I was thinking about, which is like, what's your time horizon? Like, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. Like you might just need to keep honing your craft until people get to that point where like they can't help but stop and be like, who is this? I don't know. Do you know Jacob Collier?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I wasn't sure. I feel like most musicians are like, absolutely. What do you mean? He's insane. But like he said something on a podcast one time, which is like, it's not about how many people you reached, but of the people I reached, how many did I move with my music? Like how many people were moved by it? And I think like that has always stuck with me. And I think like you can have the best artwork in the world, you can have the most compelling project name in the world, whatever. But if you don't, and you can have like, all these other things, but it's really like, it's got to be about the song. And like, that's why again, which is tough for instrumental music, because it is that like, especially in the ambient world, sometimes it can be that it's almost by design, like, especially with a lot of the droney stuff. But that's where I like the ambient guitar, because I think very much about like a lot about melody and how memorable is the song that I'm writing, like that kind of stuff. And I think that's part of the reason, like back in my when I was starting, it was like getting rejected for all these ambient playlists because it was too catchy. Almost, I interpret it as it's like too memorable. There was too much stuff going on, or it was like it wasn't like droney enough. And at first I was like, oh, now I feel like shit. But then I was like, you know what? Maybe I need to take this in a different direction and actually lean into it. And that was kind of like, where I decided to just cut clean over and like kind of leave the post-rock stuff in the post-rock realm and kind of just switch over to the guitar. And I do a lot of piano stuff too. So it's kind of that more like, I'll maybe put in a plug for what I think I call it kind of like post-ambient, which is like kind of like post-rock, kind of somewhere between post-rock and ambient type stuff. But that's why there's a lot of like that, the melody, like some people call it like ear candy, but like I just think about it as like, how can I add like interest to these like, transitions and more from a production sense, like how can I make this piece of music as memorable and compelling that people want to like listen back to it and be like, what was that I heard a little thing somewhere and I don't know what it was, but I felt it and I want to hear it again. Like, I think that like, I don't know if I'm actively thinking about that, but I think those are the things that when I listen to music that I like, that resonate with me. I'm like, oh, I want my music to do that too.
That's the perfect segue, because I feel like we could talk way longer about the different ways to get people from the top of the funnel to the bottom of the funnel, right? And at this point, it's kind of, could be true, but maybe not. Who knows? I mean, also, I don't want to discredit our opinions in a way, but it's tough to quantify.
Yeah,
but
sure.
Now that you talked about ear candy and your production, what do you think about that we listen to your today released single a little bit?
Oh, yeah.
If we can manage.
maybe why don't we do this? Why don't I'll do you think we could do a follow-up session where I can just do the Pro Tools session?
Sure.
Like I'm worried that it'll
Like a
take me
part
too
two?
long to, yeah, just like a, you know, or yeah, we can like, whether it's this song or if there's a song someone is like wants to, is interested in,
Yeah.
like it'll take me a little time to like get the same routing that I have now, set that up, but for the actual session from the song. And I don't
Yes.
want to like kill the rest of the time we have just doing that. But I would love to, like, in terms of the, I mean, I can speak to it, but in terms of the, like, maybe we can do that as like a future follow-up for,
that's actually
just like a Pro Tools breakdown.
And also I think that it's perfect, because then for now we can leave it at kind of the marketing side, maybe even, and then do a follow-up where we listen to how you make like, and then also talk about your creative process and how you come up with melodies, what inspires you, kind of all that stuff.
Yeah, and I can maybe just like verbally speak to like maybe just without maybe the specific, you know, auditory context, but like I think the like I think the reason why I'm like, oh, it'd be good to mention now is I think it ties back into that, like the philosophy that I have of like the planting the seeds and delayed gratification, because at a high level my process is like I barely ever, I don't think I've ever just sat down and like written a song like from front to back in Pro Tools. Like the way that I do it is I usually write like, you know, either like, because I'm working full time and, you know, my wife and I are always doing stuff. So it's like after she goes to bed, I'll come in here for like, sometimes it's like 30 minutes, sometimes like 10, 15 minutes. I'll either like grab the guitar or sit at the piano and I'll just kind of play whatever comes to mind. And then I use this handy dandy like voice notes thing. And I just record like whatever, you know, I'm like, oh, that's really cool. I like that. And it could be 10 seconds. It could be 5 minutes. It could be the whole 20-minute thing. Like whatever, whenever I hear something that I'm like, oh, I like that. Like I don't want to forget that. I think some people have the mindset of like, oh, if it's really good and memorable, like you won't forget it. And like, don't fall for that ever. Like I don't trust myself even when I have something that I like, am really excited about. If I like go to work or like, you know, go to bed and wake up the next morning, I'm like, shit, I'll never remember that again. So I'm like constantly recording things on here. I think I looked in preparation for this question because I had a feeling it was going to come up. I have 663 voice memos on my phone right now and I'll like star them. If I'm like, oh, I really like this thing, I'll put 3 stars. I put them in folders by like guitar and piano.
In the name, you put the star in the name. Just like
an asterisk.
Oh,
yeah. So then I can do the search bar and I can put like three asterisks and it'll show me kind of the short list of ones that I liked the most. And then when I have a little bit more time on like a weekend where we're not doing anything, or for me, like I take from my day job, I usually have a lot of vacation time to use come the end of the year. Mm-hmm. So I'm usually off for like a couple weeks in December around the holidays. So I actually do that's where I'll really just like dive in and do a lot of the like, you know, more like putting pen to paper on the actual recordings. So like take those little seeds and they might sit for months or sometimes even years. Like some of my songs are things that I recorded like 10 plus years ago that I'm just now being like, oh, this would sound really cool. Now that I have XYZ kind of like idea or production technique or something. So like, I don't really sit down and like write songs. I kind of just write all these little like seed ideas and then I pick them up when it's time or when it feels like they're ready.
Or when you have time.
Tease that a little bit. That's kind of like the general kind of philosophy. And then I would say I either do like a, like, you know, top down approach where I'm like, I have either like something melodic, like a guitar part or a piano part, and then I'll build around that. Or sometimes I'll do it'll just be like a pad or a texture or something that's like, oh, I just kind of like tinker and build like a little atmosphere type thing. And then I'll kind of build up from there. So it kind of depends on the song, but those are kind of the two like creative directions, like avenues in terms of like how I compose and stuff.
Okay, it's hard for me to not dive into this now too deep. But yeah, should we do it like this? That we split it into like a part 2?
Yeah, we can leave it there. Maybe we can do a follow-up on the creative process.
Okay, big cliffhanger. Everybody, you still
stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
This is great. This is good practice for me trying to make more like leaving people with something to look forward to.
And I think for the podcast is also great because then this is the perfect time for everybody listening now to follow the podcast and get notified when the next episode comes out, because that's when we will do this. Okay, perfect. I wrote down a few other things that maybe are in line with the other questions, because there are different ways you can also try to get people engaged with your music. And you said meta ads. Is that something you are doing actively?
Yeah, definitely. It was one of the things, like, I didn't do it for years, and then as my project grew, and I found myself having like, okay, I now have more like monthly income to utilize to like invest back into growing this as a project and as like a business. It's like, that's one of the first things that I was like, okay, I should at least like explore this, because like I feel like it's insane what Meta can do. Like, say what you want about, and I'll say this too, like about the company and about maybe other existential things, but like as a product and what they do is like, it's insane. So like and I think there was a question about this in the thread, but I'm mainly using it to drive traffic to my like This Is From Somewhere Quiet playlist. You do. So that's which is I think is unique. Like I don't know if a lot of other people are doing that. Like the and that's intentional. Like I thought about doing, because like a lot of people have these, like they build their own playlists but it's a playlist. Like this guy again, I all these little like connections back and forth, but like if you, like, some people have like a focus playlist or a study or a sleep playlist. Like that's not what I'm interested in. Like I don't want to spend money to build a playlist where people are gonna, and there's not there's anything wrong with that approach. It's just not kind of how I'm thinking about it. But again, going back to like, are they choosing me? If I'm investing all this money into meta ads, I don't want it necessarily to be for like a generic, like, oh, I really like this playlist and it has like 20, 30, 50 different artists on it. Mm-hmm. Like I want them to be choosing me. Like I want them to see my ad. Like my ads are always just me playing guitar or me playing piano. It's never like a, here's the album cover, here's the art cover. Because I want people to see the person and be like, oh, that I like what I'm hearing. Like that's cool. Like he's playing guitar, like, a little bit of maybe still figuring it out, but the cinematic lighting and trying to make it look compelling. And then it takes them to like This Is From Somewhere Quiet, and it's like 2 hours ish of all of my music, and then it has a bunch of my collaborations on there as well. But then it's like those are people that are choosing me. They're like, I want to listen to this music, and there's a trade-off there, because I don't want to say like negotiating power, but sometimes if you have one of those big playlist network, it's really helpful, because you can be like, hey, like, you kind of, I'm aware, I think everyone's aware, there's kind of these like ecosystems of like, artists that have built over years and years and probably lots of money into ads of like their own playlist network. And then like the same artists kind of like, support each other. And that's great. Like I'm definitely not digging that. I think that's awesome. And I'm very grateful to the people who will support my music, even though I'm not giving them, like, I don't have a playlist in return that I can like be like, oh, I'll put you on mine. But I just like never wanted it to be about that, like, that transactional, like, and not that I think it's like, those are all very genuine collaborations and partnerships, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that as an approach, but it just like it wasn't the way that I wanted to approach it, and there was a lot of people who would like, they're going to do that way better than I am, so I was kind of just letting that strategy exist, and then I was going to kind of be like, I'm just going to go all in my own thing. And then the other thing that's my like not a conspiracy theory, but the theory of which I am basing up no actual information is that like I do know that those streams from that playlist, they do count as active streams from your profile and catalog. They don't count as programmed streams. So like my assumption is that somewhere in the Spotify algorithm, they weight those two things differently. So like option A, if I can be getting 1 million streams a month from a generic playlist network of sleep and study and focus or whatever, versus 1 million streams a month from my This Is From Somewhere Quiet playlist, my assumption is that having the 1 million active streams a month versus 1 million program streams a month, like will make the algorithm prioritize me more over all else being equal. Like I have no actual data to back that up, but I'm assuming that's how it would work. So that's where I'm like, if I'm going to spend all this money on ads, I want it to be in that direction. And even though I give up some of the like maybe the negotiating power, like the transactional opportunities with other like curators, then like I'm willing to make that trade-off.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, if you promote a playlist, you have to curate it. So not all your songs maybe are from you, right? Most of the time. Right. So you get maybe the highest, let's say 30-40% of the streams of that playlist. And this is something you could, with your like switching power, if you had a playlist where other artists could get to more by having your music also on other playlists. But now you have 100% of everything, right?
Yeah. And actually maybe the other thing that I didn't really think of, that I didn't think to mention, but like there is you get a little bit of that where like my collaborator tracks are on there also. Like it's not only the ones that are just me. And what's cool is that because I've promoted it so much, some of the artists that I've collaborated with, my This Is From Somewhere Quiet playlist is like
in their
on their
profile
list of like discovered on. Sometimes it's the first one, which is to me is really cool, because then anyone that's going to listen to that person, they're also seeing my big stupid face like right on their profile, being like, oh, I wonder what this is. Like so like it's not that intentional, like, oh, I have this playlist network and you have this playlist network and we'll kind of exchange tracks and support each other, which is great. But like it does have that, like if I want to do a collaboration or if someone wants to do a collaboration with me, I have that to offer, where like I think it's like I usually release on Fridays, and then on the following Monday, whatever, that song gets pinned to the top of that playlist. So that gets a nice bump just naturally. So I don't need to manually like, oh, I got to remember to put my new release on all these playlists, whatever. It just does it by itself. It's very hands off. And like, I like things that are like low effort, because I just like don't have a ton of time in the day to be like, managing all these playlists and that kind of stuff. So it works for me. And I'm hopeful that like my conspiracy theory about the algorithm also, that like if I'm Spotify and I'm going to like, I'm a curator or some algorithm that's trying to decide, do I put Brian's music on this playlist or do I put someone else? All else being equal, if they're like, damn, This Is From Somewhere Quiet playlist that is exclusive to Spotify, you can only get that here. He's clearly promoting that. Like he's clearly investing into like Spotify as his primary, like, I'm going to put all my eggs, but like that might lead to more kind of opportunities within the Spotify ecosystem if I'm doing it that way.
Yeah, it feels like it lets this answer is perfect, because it gives us a little bit of an idea how deep you like to dive into the Spotify algorithm.
You have we're just not scratching the surface.
Yeah. Because what I was thinking about is the popularity score. Right.
Oh yeah.
Which
is give a whole dissertation on the popularity score,
which you should, which would be awesome. I feel like in some thread in the community we did like a deep dive on that, and Nathaniel also gave his opinion, and it was very, very interesting, because for me this changed how I thought about Spotify and the algorithm works, right? That there's this overall score that ranks these possible different interaction with the music into one whole thing, and depending on what the sum of all the little interactions is, that puts you into different tiers in a way, which spread you more or less.
And I think one of the things that I learned, so the track that I did, which I'll have to send him a text after we hang up, but you should definitely get Adam on the podcast. Also, I'm sure he would absolutely love to do it. Adam Johnson.
Really? Yeah, that would be sick.
So
you did a collaboration together, right?
Yeah. And we actually I don't want to say like came up together, but he was also in the same like post rock kind of niche, like in 2016 to 2018. Like he was doing, I think he had a post rock band that he was releasing music with, and so we kind of like, you know, exchanged DMs periodically throughout that era, and then we did a collaboration last year, and then that song just like went crazy, and it wasn't on any editorials, didn't go viral on TikTok or Instagram or anything. It was just like not so. But my theory for that one is that I think it got landed on like playlist push. Like I put it through playlist push like I always do, and it got, you know, a bunch of placements there. But I think the interesting thing was I actually forgot to put it into discovery mode. Like I do that for most of my songs. I'm just like, whatever. Like I know they take a cut. Who knows if mathematically it's worth it? But again, that's top of funnel for me. So I'm happy to like, you know, eat the cost there. So I forgot to do that for the song with Adam and I. So it was like months and months went by, and it kind of, the popularity score would just naturally got pretty high before I flipped the switch on discovery mode. And then when I flipped the switch, then it like spiked super high. Okay. So I, again, basing this off of an N of one example, but I think there's something to be said for like, you know, keeping an eye on your popularity score, and like, is it still trending upwards or has it plateaued? And like, for me, like that's part of my release strategy. And I was like, I'm going to save discovery mode until I get the sense that I've like plateaued, and then I'll hit discovery mode. Cause I think it'll look at like, if you are at, again, because I've probably heard the same thing, that there's certain thresholds of like, you know, if you're at 39 versus 40, like if you're in that 40 threshold, you'll get pushed a little bit more. So if I'm looking at my popularity score and I see it hasn't like flattened out yet, and it's at like 39, I'm going to wait until it hits 40 or 30 or whatever before I opt it into discovery mode, because I'm assuming it's going to treat it totally differently depending on what it is at the time of, you know, starting discovery mode. So again, basing that off like no information at all.
I mean, one example, that's at least one example.
So yeah, I mean, we'll see. Maybe maybe this will be a plug for my, like, you know, the Instagram channel and Patreon and stuff. But like this whole album is going to be experimentation for me. Like I have 7 singles in the album that are going to be coming out like, you know, a month apart. Yeah. And I'm going to be like experimenting and like monitoring and seeing what's going to be happening, like what works and what doesn't. And like, that's the kind of stuff, like if people are interested in that, like those are the things that I would love to share more about behind the scenes, like in those Patreon type forums. Cause like those aren't things to me that I would like put on, not because I want to hoard the information, but it's just like, I don't want to bore like my broad global Instagram audience with like weird nerd out, like, you know, music and Spotify algorithm stuff. But for the, like, if I can get 10 people that are all like nerding out about, you know, Spotify algorithm shit, like, yeah, come on down. I'd be happy to chat and brainstorm and experiment, try things out.
Maybe we can just brainstorming completely into the just from the top of my head, but maybe we can do like a little your Patreon and guitarwavers collaboration totally. Live stream or something.
And that's one of the things for me where like I have no, like I said, the Patreon for me is like 5-year plan or whatever. So like this isn't me trying to be like, oh, this is how I'm gonna like,
crush Patreon,
like extort people for money type thing, but more just like I just want a compelling reason for people to come like hang out in my little in my little niche. So like those like I would love to. I feel like there's probably some overlap there between those kind of like kind of nerding out strategies. So yeah, and vice versa. Like I get a lot of people through my Instagram that like, I'm like, oh, this person, they're like, they'll send me a message being like, oh, I'm like also doing guitar stuff or whatever. Like I don't only do guitar. So I also get like ambient, just general ambient piano stuff, but like I can also send the guitar folks your way also. I feel like that'd be a good, again, the symbiotic relationship is it's always good at it. So that'd be sweet. And then the one other thing that I'll mention about the Spotify algorithm is actually maybe I'll save that for when we but essentially there is because my day job I have an engineering degree and work for a medical device company, so I'm like my brain is wired in that very analytical way, but they have excuse me, the Spotify's like official podcast channel. Like there's a whole podcast where they're like vice president of R&D, like research and development, essentially just tells the whole story of how the algorithm, like Spotify was developed. They talk about the algorithm, and then there's like a almost like a TED talk about how it all works, like behind the scenes. And the punchline is essentially that it's like an LLM in the same way that ChatGPT uses a bunch of data to predict what word is going to come after the next word as like a language model. Spotify does more or less the same thing, but with user generated playlists as like sentences. So if you have like a whole population of like sleep playlists, it's using that data to say, okay, if Spotify is going to generate a song for a sleep playlist, or not generate, but like select a song, maybe in the future generate with AI probably, but like it's using that same type of approach to look across its global kind of like data set to say, oh, this song is showing up on every single indie folk playlist, or on 90% of indie folk playlists that are generated by users. I'm going to go prioritize that for the Spotify one or for the algorithmic one. So I do think there is an argument for like trying to make sure your song is showing up in those signals as well, which gets into like the playlist push thing and trying to get on user curated playlists. But yeah, so that's like, I don't know. There's a lot going on there, but yeah, it's fun. It's definitely cool.
Yeah, it's
a rabbit hole for sure.
Maybe I can try. I should link that podcast in the show notes.
So if you can find it, it should be just. I think it's on the whatever the general like official Spotify post channel.
Okay, so I would say, should we?
Maybe we like start winding down a little bit. Maybe any other kind of lingering questions, and then we can. This has been super fun. Like I would love to, like whatever, keep chatting because, like I said, I'm like a closeted Spotify ambient music nerd. Like I have no one in my personal life that I can nerd out with about this. So it's very fun. So happy to continue these conversations. Yeah, definitely.
I mean, it's so cool. Also, it's so cool. You're the 50th member of the Guitarwavers.
Yeah, oh my God, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's so fun. It's so cool to have you in there also. Should we skim quickly through the questions? I was just looking if there's something that makes sense to add now.
Yeah, I'm just looking. I was looking at Martin. So I think I mentioned this, but yeah, like so I don't have like I'm not formally trained as a musician. Like I took lessons in like elementary school, middle school for guitar, and then quit that, or piano, and then quit it, and then guitar, and then piano, and quit it, and then I like picked it up myself after YouTube became a thing. So you definitely, like, for anyone that's listening that is like, oh, I don't know music theory, or like I can't read music, like I don't know how to read sheet music or anything. So like, yeah, definitely. I love when I meet other people like you who are like, oh yeah, we don't know shit about like, I don't want to say I don't know shit about music theory, because I feel like my ear is good, like, but I don't know, like I couldn't tell you what like a C minor diminished seventh, like that kind of thing. But I could tell you, if I'm listening to a song, I could tell you like, oh, that's definitely the 4 chord. That sounds like, the 7 chord or whatever.
Okay, respect.
But like theory wise, I have no idea what's going on. But yeah, so hopefully that's some encouragement for other people like us who don't know, weren't formally trained, because you can definitely do it.
Yeah, exactly. When I did a YouTube video where I explained my whole process of how I write the songs, and maybe we can get a little deeper in the episode where we talk about your creative process.
Yeah, but totally. And I'm sure people are probably, next time I can maybe go a little bit more about this.
The spaceship, the blinking thing.
This guy right here. Yeah, because it's fun. I don't really know a lot about pedals either. Like, I'm not a guitar nerd about like gear or guitars. I have this one. I have the Telecaster.
Can you show it?
Yeah.
Oh, it's the black Telecaster. Yes, and it's semi-hollow, right?
Yeah, it's a semi-hollow, and it's like one of the made in Mexico ones. So I got it for like, it was like $900. So it's like not even one of the. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not like a cheap guitar, but it's like compared to like the high end like custom ones, and like I've played way more expensive guitars than this one, and I will play this until I die. And I might get another one, just like one that I think is cool, but this will probably continue to be the main one for. So I have an acoustic guitar here, and then I keep one down in our living room so I can just kind of like noodle around and play for fun. But these are the ones that I record with.
Yeah. Also, plug on this position. You have a how do you say it? Where you can win pedals thing open right now. Yeah, I'm doing. This is one of the things where I was like, if you had told me like even last year that I would be doing like influencer things, like trying to give away pedals, yes, exactly. In exchange for people's emails. But no, part of it was like I have this, I think, famous last words as a guitarist. Like I don't think I'm going to make any changes here anytime soon. So, but I have a couple of pedals that actually I can grab. This is one of them. So if you want to get a chance to win one of these pedals, you just have to subscribe to the newsletter, and then you
can do all go to Instagram, and then I think there's a link. Yeah. I don't know. I'm so bad. I don't even know where to find it myself.
Oh, I will put it also in the show notes.
Yeah, that'd be, yes. I'll send it to you. I'll text it to you or DM it to you on Instagram. But yeah, just like I have a bunch of these lying around that I'm just not using, and I'm like, people will get better use out of these than me anyway. And I've realized that no matter how many people like follow you on social media, that like it doesn't really do anything. Like it doesn't mean that people are going to see your post necessarily. Mm-hmm. So I feel like I'm trying to go more kind of the email list and like the Instagram channel, like those kind of things where I have a little bit more like assurance that like, oh, I can actually make sure these people are hearing about this. So I have like a little giveaway where you can put your email if you want to sign up for the other things like the Patreon, the Instagram channel, and I forget what the other thing is, but you can essentially like get more entries. So that way, and it's just it generates it randomly, and so it'll tell me who wins at the end.
Okay. So
we'll see. Yeah, it's just like a cool tool that I didn't even realize was built into the feature FM that I use to do all like the pre-save links and stuff. I noticed the other day that they have like a giveaway tool, and I was like, oh, I should just like play around with it. Yeah. Why not? So yeah, it'll be fun. And that's going on through the end of March. So
still a little bit of time.
I think I saw you were in there, so you have pretty good odds. There's like only 7 people.
Also, I got more points through joining your Instagram crew chat, I think.
Oh, nice. Right? Yeah, there you go. So you're probably up there in the running, because there's like maybe this is my my soapbox is again about delayed gratification, where it's like it very well could get to the point where I do this month-long giveaway and only like 7 people sign up, and then I'm giving away hundreds of dollars worth of pedals and shipping to like, especially if it goes to Germany. I'm like, I could get to the point where I'm spending like in practice like $1,000 to get 7 emails, and I'm like, people should not be looking to me for my marketing. Like, I'm not a marketing whiz. I'm just like trying shit out. We're gonna see what happens, and like I'm having fun with it. And again, it's like, I'm not going to use these, but it's like it's kind of a fun little goofy thing. It is like a little embarrassing on Instagram to be like, sign up for my giveaway. Like I'm an influencer now, but we're gonna have fun with it. We're gonna see where it goes, and yeah. So
For me,
I think that's a good plug. Thank you for reminding me about that.
Also, I not to only make it about the pedals, but I'm also interested in what your plan is with the newsletter. Like I have because it's so smart to build an owned audience that way, right? So when you release a song, you can always tell everybody that is in the newsletter, by the way, there's a song out. But
yeah, and that's pretty much it. It's just for me, it's not like it's pretty much to just let people know, so that on like, which again, I don't have it. Like I have a bunch of emails, like I have the seven from the giveaway, but then I also, through my pre-save links, anytime someone clicks through to Spotify from that link, it saves their email. Yeah. So I have like close to like 1,000 emails that I'm sitting on from like the last month that I am working again, because I just don't have enough time to do all these things. Yeah. But I'm trying to figure out, I started a subscription for one of these, like where you can have a mailing list and you can automate things and follow-ups and stuff. Sequences. Yeah, that kind of thing. So yeah, but I probably should send one today because my new song's out, but I haven't set up the infrastructure yet to do it. So probably next month. So follow along. Another plug. Come watch me figure this shit out and mess up and miss deadlines and not have things ready on time for when they're supposed to come out.
It's going to be great.
But we're going to figure it out.
No.
But yeah.
I'm so excited to watch you experiment with this album. This is so fun.
Yeah, and I'm excited too. And like I said, I'm honestly, even if it's literally just you and me, that's a win for me. If I have one other person to be to come along on this journey, it's going to be so fun to just be yeah, I can send you a message and be like, don't ever do a fucking giveaway, dude. It's not worth it at all. Or I might be like, hey, giveaways are it. This was a huge success and we won't know for another month. But
that sparks another question. Do we still have time for another question? Because
I would say, I got probably 10. I have another meeting I have to jump to at 1:00 my time. So in 20 minutes. So I would say at
maybe 5 minutes 55. Still talking, and then maybe a little guitar playing if you still feel like it.
Oh yeah, let's do that. Let's go until 45, and then I'll play a little bit, and then we can wind down, and then I will absolutely be back. This has been so much fun.
Okay, great, awesome. Because oh my god, my concentration. I'm so sorry. It was about collaborations, and I think there was also a question about what do you think of how much that does for in terms of in terms of
art, releases with other artists.
Yeah.
Definitely those are the way to go. And I would say not only
why.
I think one, it just, even if you ignore the Spotify side of things, just creatively that process of exchanging, the way that I always do it is I send a bunch of either an idea or stems. And that's my advice to anyone who is doing these collaborations. Always stem out whatever your idea is and send it, because it just opens up that much more flexibility. And it's a totally different creative process to take someone else's, or take an idea, have someone else tinker with it and send it back. It takes you in totally different directions. So I would say that's enough of a reason to just go find people who you think are doing cool stuff and collab with them. There's always the maybe the more I don't know, growth centric, where it's if I could collaborate with this person who's they have more numbers than I do, then maybe you'll get exposed. I don't necessarily think that it's that simple, where it's if you do a collaboration with some big person that you're magically going to come along for the ride on all their stuff. No. But it does get you some exposure to their audience. But I would say do it for the creative aspect of it. It's just Adam and I did, I've done a bunch of collabs, but especially the one with Adam, we had so much fun sending stuff back and forth. And then he we both kind of had ideas where he was oh, what if we take this and we bring back in that melody from the beginning, like at the end, and it can kind of this full circle thing. Like you get a lot of those things that just like, for me, this is a very solitary endeavor for me most of the time. And so I get into a lot of the same habits over and over again. So it just kind of like helps break you out of that. So yeah, I would say definitely is worth doing.
Yes. Because that question came up also in the community multiple times. And for me, with the collaborations, I haven't seen a big jump in streams or anything, even if the other person had more monthly listeners or something. But it's just what you're saying. Just creatively, it's just valuable.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Okay, should we? Do you see any other question you think you still want to answer, or should we just reflect what we covered?
I'll save the ones about the creative process. I guess the question about the pandemic being a catalyst, not really. I was releasing stuff. I think we touched on that. It was like kind of earlier, and then I just transitioned kind of with a different goal. We talked about marketing. I feel like we nailed all the marketing questions. Nothing super specific. Maybe this one. So Peter, shout out Peter. Him and I are chatting about potentially doing a song together. About like editorial playlists. I would say like pretty much 50% of my streams right now are active. That like active versus programs are coming from active, and like 1% are from editorials. I was on a big editorial for like 3 or 4 months, and it was really cool for the numbers, but I didn't see a lot of like long-term stay. And I would say even worse, the dread of getting pulled off a big playlist and seeing your numbers plummet is like existential. Is like, I never want to experience that ever again. So that was actually, that's a really good question. Like that was another input into my like my change in perspective and focus on like more meaningful engagement, because like it sucked. Like being like, oh, my numbers are, I'm like absolutely killing it. I'm like, and what's cool is I actually have like very close to, if not more, like monthly listeners now, and like half of those are active streams now than when I was like on this number 7 spot on the deep focus playlist, which is like probably the biggest ambient one like on there. So it's like you can achieve the same result if you give yourself enough time, and like, you can get to the same spot, and you don't have to worry about the like existential dread of like, oh, what if it gets pulled off tomorrow, or like how long is this sustainable, especially if you're like trying to pay your bills with like, I have the luxury, like I don't have to worry about that, but I've heard stories of people who are like, I don't know how I'm going to pay rent because I got pulled off a playlist. And so like, definitely don't want to expose myself to that ever. And it's in terms of where they're coming from. Like we talked about a lot of things, but like, I don't really know. It's like pretty much half active, half programmed from like a stream standpoint. The percentage of listeners I think is way higher programmed, but those active people are streaming like a ton more, which is awesome. So that's kind of what I'm leaning into now. And in terms of advice, I would say, we've hit on a lot of things. Maybe like, I would say, don't listen to me necessarily. Like, I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm trying to figure it out. But yeah, talk to people. We'll chat more at some point. We'll chat in the school, kind of page here. That'll be fun.
If you're listening and you're not a guitar waver yet, come join us.
It'll be a lot of fun. And also, I just joined. I just finally got in there this morning, so I haven't even got a chance to kind of like skim through. So that'll be fun.
And thank you to Martin, Peter, and Jacopo, I think, who wrote a lot of these great questions.
I was very blown away with how like thoughtful and like, you guys are awesome. This was really cool to have this as like a help keep us on track a little bit. So we didn't go totally off the rails.
Yeah, we didn't go totally off it. At least I think so too. Okay, would you feel down to play something? I don't know if that's how you play normally. What I'll say is maybe this is a good plug for the
a future thing where we talk about the creative process, but I like this little thing right here that I don't even really know, forget who makes it and what it's called. But it's essentially like a 5-channel, like each one of these is an individual loop that's on its own kind of like channel. And then you can kind of cycle through different like tracks or whatever. So I can come in here. I don't even have to like turn on Pro Tools or I have a totally like.
So it's like a looping pedal with 5 channels.
Yeah. And so what I'll do is I'll come in and I'll just like make little pad sounds, and then I'll kind of like do a sound for loop 1. And then I'll add, when we talk about ear candy, I'll like kind of play around with another little twinkly sound or whatever, put it on loop 2, and then I'll kind of mix them together and then just kind of have this cool background sound. So again, like shout out for Patreon stuff. Like I would love to do more, like show that whole process.
That would be
and
sick.
like how it all flows through here, and then how I get it from here into Pro Tools and that kind of stuff. But for the purposes of this, I didn't want to like waste a ton of time. So I have like old ones that I've just had
pre-recorded,
like, loaded in here.
Wow, this is why I make this podcast. These conversations have been just a dream, because nerding out like this is just so much fun. I hope you took a lot out of this. If you have any questions, please let me know. If you have any feedback, please let me know. And if you want to put in questions to the next guest, you are more than welcome to join the Guitarwavers community. The link is in the show notes. And I'm sending you lots of relaxed energy with this beautiful music from somewhere quiet.